live. Today we've got Jordan Syatt, world record holder, Gary Vaynerchuk, trainer, fitness celebrity at this point. I'm going to introduce you as that. I know I said that earlier, but I'm going for it. Fat loss experts, extreme amount of clout in the area of exercise, strength conditioning, fitness, health. Jordan, is that about how when you're giving your like introduction to someone, you meet someone for the first time, do you just lay out something just like what I just said?
That's basically how I did it. Exactly. I leave out the celebrity part of it for sure, but
yeah, I figured you did. I think that you're there, man. Like I think the first time I remember seeing you on anything was maybe a Eric Cressey product. You were like you had like a I forget what it was.
It was that.
It was like how to build tension or something like that. It was some kind of obscure where I was just like, what is this?
Did you buy the high performance handbook from Eric Cressey?
That's what it was. Yeah.
I had like a little feature in there. I was 20 or 21 at the time.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
He was like, could you just write like a brief it was like an extra bonus for that product. And I remember I wrote about like how to use, you could take 2 tennis balls and tape them together and like use that for your soft tissue stuff. That was so funny.
Actually, that's one of my favorite things to do. Like we have 3 of those at the gym. We use them all the time. Just the 2 tennis ball deals.
Yeah, it's good. It works.
Yeah, it seriously does. It's so versatile. Like you can do your Achilles or you can do your upper back or you can put it up against the wall. So, yeah, I mean, sorry for getting your product there, man, but it's only been like 5 or 6 years, so.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, absolutely.
No, that just came. I don't know why that just popped in my head, but it did. But well, can you kind of introduce yourself? Kind of tell people. I gave my version of Jordan Syatt. Can you give them kind of your background, a little bit about you, so they have some. Like a foothold of who you are?
Yeah, for sure. So basically I in terms of like getting involved in the fitness industry, I started wrestling when I was 8 years old. And I was obsessed with it. I was like all I cared about. And then by the time I got to high school, I made varsity as a freshman, but I had to cut a lot of weight. So I was cutting from 112 to 103 pounds every week just to make weight. And that's when I was
we really know what you're talking about there.
What's up?
We're in Iowa, so I super know what you're talking about there.
Man, Iowans, you guys know how to wrestle. That's no joke. You guys are definitely like top of the line in the country for wrestling.
It's a weird culture here for sure. But anyway, keep going.
So then I basically I had to figure out how I could improve my performance, increase my strength while still losing weight. And I really started to dig into strength training and nutrition and that whole deal at a very young age. And I applied to my first job. I got my first personal training job at 14. Basically I was wicked lucky. I wanted to learn. So I reached out and I was like, hey, listen, I'll take your trash out. I'll clean the floors. I'll do whatever. Just let me come and learn from you. And I was lucky they said yes. And I was lucky that they turned out to be unbelievably incredible coaches that I'm still very close with today. They actually introduced me to Eric Cressey. They were just like, they really took me under their wing and made sure that I knew I was doing the right stuff. So started doing that at like 14 years old. And then from there, basically I started competing in powerlifting and did fortunately pretty well in that. And then, training at Westside Barbell, training at Cressey Performance. Then from that point, like I started my website when I was at Westside Barbell, basically just writing articles, not to be known, literally just because like to help people. And then slowly and surely that transformed into a business of people asking, can you write my training programs, blah, blah, blah. So by the time I graduated college, I didn't have to work for anybody else. I could just do my online thing, and that was that. That's
cool. I didn't realize that you trained at Westside. How are the weights at Westside for? Because the guys at Westside in general are just very large men.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny story. So when I basically what happened was, I remember I wanted to train at Westside, and I emailed Louis, and I gave him I have this entire email chain still. I have it saved. But I emailed.
Well, yeah, how to get rid of that?
I was 19 years old, and I was like, hey, please, like, come let me train there. I'll take the trash out. I'll clean the floors. And Louis responds, and I didn't expect him to respond, but he goes, our weakest guy squats 800 pounds. What do you have to offer? And I responded, and I said, I don't give a fuck what your weakest guy or strongest guy squats. I'll work harder than you and every one of your lifters there. And I had my cell phone number in my signature, and he called me. And it was an unknown number from Ohio, so I just ignored it, and he left me a message saying, call him back. and
that's crazy.
Then
Godfather of strength and conditioning in the United States.
It was I shit myself. I remember because I was walking out of the dining hall with my buddy Kyle and a few other people, and I got this call and I ignored it because I was like, I don't know who this is. And then I listened to the voicemail. I was like, Jordan, this is Louis Simmons from Westside Barbell. And I was like, oh my God, like, what the fuck? And I still have that voicemail on my phone. It's still saved. And then,
really?
Yeah, I still have it. It's like the #1 saved voicemail on my phone. And yeah, I was at Westside for about 4 months. And my total went up like 300 pounds.
In 4 months.
That was
like an accurate 300 pounds, or is that like an exaggeration?
No, that was legit a 300 pound increase.
So what was your total?
Oh man, at that point in time, I can't remember. It was my total was probably got up to about 1,000. It was probably like right around 1,000 total.
Yeah. What about? Break it down. Bench, squat, dead. What were you pulling?
When I went there, or like my ultimate final total?
Well, yeah, let's just do final total, so you don't have to rack your memory too hard.
Yeah, there's no way I can remember when I went there. But final total, best squat was 420, best bench press was 260, best deadlift was 535.
Yeah, at a total weight, what were you weighing at the time?
132.
132. That's crazy. Pound for pound, that's pretty strong, pretty wild, but. Anyways, that's how you got into Westside?
Yeah, that's how I got into Westside. And I didn't even want to go back to school. I was like, I'm going to stay at Westside. And then Louis was like, no, you got to go to school, man. You got to do that.
It's kind of funny coming from him because it sounds like you barely graduated high school.
You just get so brainwashed there. You get so like involved in what they're doing. All the other lifters were telling me to quit, telling me like to stay in the gym, don't go back to school. But Louis was the one who was really like, no, you have to go back to school, because what most people don't know about Louis is like the guy's tatted from head to toe. He's been to prison. Like he's not like the easiest guy to go in front of a group of people and just feel warm and comfortable about. So he doesn't go to universities and talk. And one of the things he despises most is that strength and conditioning in the university level is not where it should be. So he was like, you need to go back and you need to teach them the right way to do this shit. I was like, okay.
Yeah, no kidding. It's not necessarily a very mainstream strength conditioning is just behind the times, I guess, is the only way, like the nicest way I could say it. It's just some people do extremely well, and the others just kind of tail along. It seems like, anyway. Yeah,
for sure, exactly. It's interesting. Like, yeah, I'd say that you're exactly right with that assessment.
Yeah, and it's not to put them down. I mean, I got stuff to do, but I would imagine that. For the little bit of time that I spent in the collegiate world training Division I athletes, there's so much time devoted to recruiting that I think it kind of ends up going by wayside, that you're going to just be able to, I don't know how to explain it, like incorporate all the new stuff into your program. You know, like you have to kind of stay cliche to appease everybody. Like, oh, what's your clean, or what's your squat, or what, you know, like it's not always easy to sell parents and high school kids on why they should come to your program, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. That makes total sense. And also there's a lot of I remember when I was really young and I was really getting into this, I was like, I want to train at the collegiate level. I want to train professional athletes. But what you realize is as you get into that world is it's like you can't screw around very much. It's very like straightforward, basic. Like if you get a collegiate high level athlete or like a professional athlete with millions of dollar contract and you injure them, you are it's like completely just you're so screwed. It's not even funny. So it's what I found is it's much more fun and you can do much more with a more of a general population client.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like for the most part, the people that I train are, you know, middle-aged males and females, and probably 70 to 80% of them are females. It's there's a complete mentality shift between training someone who has never had a child and someone who has gone through labor and had a child and had to raise that kid to be like all the way through teenagers. Like their work ethic and what they bring to the table outdoes every single Division I player that I ever worked with. Their work ethic, their appreciation, their gratitude, their mentality, their like everything about them is just night and day. So I'm with you. I find it way more fun to train their own pop.
100%. Absolutely. No question about it. I will always, most of my clients are women, and no one works harder than what I found than like that. The woman who's married, has kids, or like the woman anywhere like between, I would say 26 to 60, they work so hard in the gym. It's unbelievable. Like no one works harder than them.
Yeah, and they just go, and it's like, hey, well, like let's take some rest. And they're like, no, let's do more. I'm like, what are you talking about? You just went for like 20 reps on something that I thought you were going to get 4 of, and you want to go again.
They do stuff that collegiate athletes would just be wrecked. They would stop. They would complain, but they don't complain. They just keep on going. They do what you tell them to do. like they just work their ass off. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so impressive. Speaking of which, one of the things that I really like about you, like speaking of like training and stuff like that, is how simplified you make it on your social media stuff. How'd you come up with that stuff? Like this is amazing. You're just like, oh well, I need to write this for a first grader, or what's your strategy?
Well, so I've always been of the opinion that a true expert, like the best in a given field, can make the most complicated topic easy to understand for a 6-year-old. That's always been my way of thinking, that if you can make it easy to understand for a 6-year-old, that anybody in the field, like you see all these fitness professionals talking about anterior pelvic tilt and upper cross syndrome, and they like to use really big fancy words, and because they try and impress other coaches, but that's not the people you're supposed to be helping. Like you're trying to help the people who are actually in need of the help, not the people who study this for a living. So for me, it was number one, understanding that you have to break it down for people in a way that's so easy to understand that a third grader can understand it. And number two is when people try and impress other coaches, they're letting their ego run their actions based on they're saying like, I want to impress another coach, so I'm going to use these big words and try and make this sound really fancy, as opposed to saying, I'm just going to help someone who needs it, and understanding I don't need to try and talk in a way that's going to impress anybody, because I know this basic little picture graph is going to help someone who really needs it. And it works really well.
Yeah, no, that's I really like that. That's nice. It's always fun when we get new trainers at the gym, because they try to explain everything through and through, and it's and then you hear somebody else explain the squat. For instance, let's say the squat, and they're like, hips this and do it, and your knees go, and you abduct, and then somebody else come along and they'll be like, your hips go up and down. And they're like, oh, I get it.
That's it.
That was it.
Sit on the toilet and stand back up. That's it.
Yeah, seriously, that's it. I really liked your one that you had. I know I told you this earlier, but what was it? The priorities of burning fat versus the priorities of burning muscle, or of building muscle.
Yep.
And what is it? It's for burning fat. You were like, number one was.
So for burning fat, priority number one is nutrition. Number two is strength training, and 3 is unicorn blood.
Yeah, very costly.
Uh,
And the other side of it was just the only difference was pizza, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, the difference is also the order. So for fat burning, it's nutrition, then strength training. And then for building muscle, it's strength training, then nutrition. And that's really the key difference that people need to understand for those two different goals, where when your goal is fat loss, you need to be in a calorie deficit, and that needs to come from nutrition. When your goal is muscle gain, you need to really start focusing on getting enough volume in, getting stronger. And nutrition is important because you need to be in a surplus, but it's generally much easier to be in a surplus than it is to be in a deficit. Like you have more leeway with the quality of food. You have more leeway without necessarily needing to track as meticulously. So go balls to wall in the gym, give that your 100% effort. Nutrition can be a little bit more lax, and that's okay. Whereas as fat burning is more or less the opposite.
Yeah. And your opinion on, since you brought up the calorie thing, better to eat less or better to eat better if you're going for fat loss?
Well, I wouldn't make them mutually exclusive. I wouldn't, and I just made a video on this the other day. There's a reason why you can't eat less and eat better. Or there's one guy, I got really pissed off because this one guy was like, he said, I don't believe in calorie counting because when you say calorie counting, it automatically makes people eat like shit. And I was like, no, that means you're doing a bad job of coaching. Like, you can track your calories and also make sure that you're eating high quality food at the same time. So I would say if your goal is fat loss, 100%, you need to understand that you have to eat fewer calories. But you should, if what's going to happen is if you're not paying attention to the quality of your food, is you're going to eat fewer calories and be hungry as hell and like hate yourself. And then you're automatically going to start going to the more nutrient dense foods that actually fill you up.
Yeah, and make you feel good for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like the calories in, calories out is obviously bogus. It's not an exact it's not an exact equation. You know, you drop 3,500 calories from your diet, you're not going to lose exactly 1 pound of fat. But at the same time, we have to consider that the calorie is significant, and we can't just completely throw it out the window and be like, oh, well, don't ever count your calories and you'll just eat like shit if you do. And all of us, no matter what, I don't care who you are on the face of the earth, everybody can make better choices in the nutrition department.
100%. It's funny. One of the arguments against calorie counting is it's not an exact science. You don't know exactly how many calories are in certain foods. It's like, okay, when you go to the gym, I guarantee if you take the 45-pound weight and a 35-pound dumbbell and all this stuff, you actually weigh them. One of them is going to be 37 pounds. One of them is going to be 46.2 pounds. Like, no weight is exactly the same in the gym as what it says. So if you're going by it's not working because it's not an exact science, then you should fucking stop lifting weights because you don't know exactly how much you're lifting.
Yeah, exactly. And like, what do you really, if you really get down to it, what are we really doing? We're working for an improvement.
Exactly. You're looking at a trend, a progress over time. It just because the calorie might be like, it might be like 12 calories off. Okay, but are you still in a calorie deficit because you tracked and you remembered, oh shit, I had the 2 handfuls of nuts today, so I'm not going to eat that pizza tonight. So then you're in a calorie deficit versus if you didn't track and you forgot, and then you would have had it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's not necessarily, it's not necessarily like you pack it all into a short period of time. This is what I think the fitness industry is really screwed up with, is that we've sold this idea that, oh, you just go on for 6 weeks. Well, 6 weeks and you'll be fine. No, you're going to need like months and months and months. You're going to have to carry this on and just be extremely patient. It's going to take a long time. Me personally, like, I think that the biggest loser, probably the biggest fault that they've done is trying to create this idea that it should be done in a short time. Like, if you can make it over courses of long periods of time, then you make it a lifestyle.
100%.
You don't make the extreme thing that it's become.
The issue is that so many people are like, they look at the 21-day cleanses or the 14-day fixes or whatever, and they think that is going to be that's all they need. It's like, okay, that's all I need. Or like, maybe it'll just kickstart me. But the issue is when it's done, what do you do? And they're so extreme and so intense, and they see such fast progress that as soon as they go to something more sustainable, they're like, this isn't working. It's like, no, it's working. Your expectations are unrealistic.
Yeah. Like, I try to stay away from the unrealistic world, but it's just kind of hard to do in this instance. Like it's just going to take a long time. It's going to take progress. It's going to take, this extreme mindset to just carry through over and over and over again. So it's,
you say you stay from the word unrealistic?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because I like to believe that all things are possible, and I don't want to put something down. It's like I like the idea of being realistic to a certain degree. It's like being I don't want to choose between being an optimist or being an opportunist or being a realist or being a this or this. Everybody puts it in the category. So I don't really want to be unrealistic. Knowing me and myself and what I train people through. I don't know. I'd have to think on that one a little bit. Usually,
I don't look at unrealistic as a negative thing. I look at realistic versus unrealistic as a way to set expectations in a way that will allow you to succeed. So, for example, if you're trying to grow your fitness business and you have 0 clients and 0 viewers and you have nothing so far, and you're like, hey, so in a year I want to make 6 figures, I would say that is it's possible, but probably unrealistic. And so now we can say, I would like for in a year you to be doing this amount based on this many clients. And so then you could be like, oh, okay, so that's the goal. Because if you didn't achieve that goal, maybe you would have been demoralized. You should have done it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I guess it's just it depends on the individual, maybe. I don't really get too discouraged about not, I set unrealistic goals all the time. And to me, they do seem realistic, but I realize I'm going to shoot for them anyway. So it gets me in a little bit of trouble, but at the same time, my disappointment just fuels me on rather than the other way around. So maybe that's just a me thing, and maybe it's not just an everybody thing. I don't know.
Got it. Cool.
Good question, man. Really good question. Hey, by the way, I've been meaning to, I wrote this down. I just noticed it. Tortoise and Hare. This was a big topic. Patience. That's what brought me to this kind of transition without signaling there on you. But Gary talks about this a lot, the tortoise or the hare, that he wants to be both the tortoise and the hare. But so first of all, what do you think of that story? And what's your perspective on it?
My perspective on the tortoise and the hare?
Yeah, you spent time with him.
It's funny. I think. Oh shit! I'm hearing myself in the background now. It's screwing me up.
Well, for instance, hopefully I'll go for you here. And hopefully that works its way out. But to me, I look at that story and I don't think it's about being patient or slow and steady wins the race. I look at it as it's a story about underestimating your opponent, not necessarily do you go fast or slow.
I like that. I've never heard that. It's funny. I know. So Gary, for example, is very competitive. Everything for him. He's I always want to crush you. I want to beat you, and that's just Gary's personality. I'm very. I'm competitive when I'm with someone, but building my business, I don't ever think about competing. I'm never thinking about literally just how can I do better? I guess it's more of an internal. So it might be, looking at it the way you look at it, it might be the competition itself of balancing going really but also having no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And kudos to speaking over your own voiceover there. You guys that are watching this right now, what Jordan's experience is, he hears himself about 2 seconds after he said his words. So it's really hard to keep talking. I did that. Tony Genicore was on here one time, And I was getting it the whole show. And Tony just basically, I was like, before the show, I was like, Tony, the more you blabber on, the better. And he's like, okay, great, I'll do that. And I was so thankful because every time that I spoke, it just shot back at me.
It's tough.
It's terrible.
You lose your concentration.
Yeah, because you're just constantly dealing with it. And then you have to try to do this, like, half of your concentration is going to not hearing yourself, and the other half is going to trying to figure out what you're trying to say. And then somewhere in there, you've got to listen. But yeah, no. When I look at the Tortoise and the Hare, like I think that I don't know what Homer was trying to get across when he wrote. I think he was trying to say slow and steady wins the race. But I look at it and I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's about who, like, it was slow and steady or fast. I think like if I'm going to choose, I'd much rather the fastest guy wins every single time. You know, like even in long distance races, the fastest person wins every single time. So I think it's more about the rabbit going and taking a nap, underestimating his opponent, and not go ahead and win the race. So when I look at it, I'm like, you just can't ever underestimate someone that if you're in a competition. And from the other side, when it's like, well, I won't go fast. Or you better do that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, you can pose that to Gary, see what he says.
I'll bring that up.
All right. So Jordan, real quick, lightning round. Just first thing that pops into your head when you hear these words. Deal?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. Coffee.
Bean.
Health.
Deadlifts.
Ooh, nice. Beer.
Good.
Pizza.
Better.
Really? I thought you were gonna say necessary. So like that's the broccoli.
Black.
Yeah, me too. I actually really like vegetables, but when it comes to broccoli, it's just like, shit. I suppose.
It used to be as a kid, but now it's just like I don't like it at all.
Yeah, no, it's like up there with chin-ups for me. Like I know, but I don't want to do it. All right. Speaking of pull-ups.
Strength.
Sharks.
What was it?
Sharks.
Scary as fuck.
All right, and then last one that I've written down. What's your favorite TV show of all time?
Boy Meets World. I don't know why that just pops into my head, but it's probably not my favorite, but that was like a lightning round rapid answer. But wow, I haven't thought about that show in years, but we'll go with that. Why not? My mom used to call it the Topanga Show.
Yeah, I never really watched that. Rachel talks about it all the time. That's my significant other. She talks about that show, and I like have no reference point because I'm like, I don't. Yeah.
I have no idea why that was the first one to pop in my head because it definitely wasn't the one I watched most, but I think it's a funny answer, so we'll go with it.
You'll go with it. What's the one you watched most?
Oh, man. When I was in high school, I watched Scrubs religiously.
Really?
That was such a good show. And then as a kid, it was like I was actually a big Hey Arnold fan.
Were you really?
Yeah.
That's funny. We didn't really have – I grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere. So, like, we didn't have cable until I was well into high school. So if I was going to watch cable, like all the things that most kids get, I didn't get until way later in life. Like, I didn't know what Chips Ahoy tasted like until I was, like, 17. I went to college without knowing what Mike and Ike's were. Like stuff like that. Like, I just had no clue whatsoever. But anyway, Jordan, we're about up on time. Any big words of wisdom, things you want to leave the viewers with?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing that I can put out there for anybody and everybody is that whether your goal is fat loss or muscle gain or to grow your business or anything, you will fail over and over and over and over again, and that's normal and expected and a good thing. And as long as you don't stop trying, you will succeed. You just can't stop trying. It's the biggest thing is that people fail when they quit. They succeed as long as they fail better, and fail again over and over and over again until they succeed. Yeah.
For some reason, I might screw. John Wooden has that quote where he's like, "Players with fight don't ever lose a game. They just run out of time."
Yeah,
like that one.
I love that. I love that.
But all right, well, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate it. It's super cool to have you on. Maybe you can come back again sometime. We can go through more lightning rounds, see what you have to say.
Dude, absolutely, man. Let's do it. Thank you for having me. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. And we'll see you soon.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah, later.